The OKC Thunder don't have a lot of holes in their game, but if there's one, it is that their offense can sometimes get stagnant and that their floor spacing can get a bit tentative, which is why if you're skeptical of the defending champions' ability to repeat this season, you can point to how close the Denver Nuggets and the Indiana Pacers were to pulling off an upset against the Thunder in last year's playoffs, as OKC shot just 32% from deep versus Denver and only 34.5% from deep in the finals against Indiana. Well, you could also point out that J-Dub, the Thunder's second best player, is currently out with a hamstring injury and has only played a total of 24 games this season. And when he was on the floor, there were times when he looked uncomfortable and ineffective shooting from deep following a couple of wrist surgeries, which just put an even heavier scoring burden on Shai. Though after the NBA trade deadline, it suddenly became much more difficult to be skeptic with OKC's chances to win another title, as they just acquired 6'3" second-year guard Jared McCain from the 76ers, who was the 16th overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft and who as a rookie last season has averaged 15 points per game while shooting 38.3% from the three-point line on solid volume. In exchange, the Thunder sent Philadelphia a 2026 top 4 protected first-rounder from Houston, together with second-round picks in 2027 and 2028. OKC had too many first-round picks in the 2026 draft anyway, and so they gave away the worst of their projected first-round picks in this year's draft and attached a couple second-rounders to it to acquire a young high-upside player who could help address the Thunder's floor spacing and secondary creation issues while being on a cost-control deal. The crazy thing is, aside from this trade, OKC also just might have quietly benefited from some other deals that happened during the trade deadline, particularly with that of the James Harden and Darius Garland swap between the Cavs and the Clippers, as well as that of the surprising Jaren Jackson trade that the Utah Jazz pulled off. But first, going back to the Jared McCain trade, if you're a skeptic about this move by Sam Presti, you might argue that this season, McCain has only been averaging more than 6 points, just 2 rebounds and 1.7 assists per game in less than 17 minutes per night. But then, there's the fact that McCain came fresh off a torn lateral meniscus in his left knee as well as a torn UCL in his right thumb, which is a factor as to why he never consistently found his rhythm in Philadelphia this season, causing him to be overshadowed in a crowded 76ers backcourt that has seen the All-NBA emergence of Tyrese Maxey, as well as the early contributions of rookie VJ Edgecombe. Well, sure, it's not as if the extremely deep Thunder have a ton of minutes to go around either, so skeptics might also say that it's possible that in the playoffs, McCain might also find himself out of the team's rotation, just like what happened to trade deadline acquisition Gordon Hayward 2 years ago. Though, in response, I would argue that what Sam Presti pulled off this trade deadline is not a bet on an aging former star player like Hayward, but rather, trading for McCain is a bet on a player who before his knee injury last season actually appeared to be on his way to winning the Rookie of the Year award, and is currently only 21 years old. But more importantly, OKC picked up a high upside guard whose skill set happens to align with the team's glaring weaknesses in terms of floor spacing and secondary shot creation. First off, the most straightforward appeal of McCain is obvious. He's an elite floor spacer whose game is built around his jump shooting ability and fundamentals, who just really plays well off the ball due to defenders having to respect him from behind the arc. Last season as a rookie, McCain shot the lights out from deep, draining 38.3% of his three-point attempts on 11.1 attempts per 100 possessions. Well, this season, you could say that his outside shooting is down a bit, but he's still shooting an above league average 37.8% from deep, while still draining an elite 40.8% of all his catch and shoot three-point attempts. McCain's shooting gravity at the very least should make him a reliable and constant kick-out pass outlet for OKC's main ball handlers. But I'm quite sure Coach Daigneault will also utilize McCain the way he's always done with Isaiah Joe in terms of screening for other guards, slipping out for open three-pointers, constantly relocating into open spots on the floor, and coming off flare screens to get high-quality looks from deep. I can easily imagine McCain setting those guard-to-guard ghost screens for guys like Shai before popping out to the three-point line, or McCain just moving off the ball, coming off stagger screens from iHeart or Chet Holmgren, using those bodies to get himself an opening from deep. One thing I especially like about Jared McCain is that, just like Isaiah Joe, he doesn't really need a ton of space to get his shot off, and has also shown some flashes of pull-up shooting even out of tight spaces, which makes him more than just a simple catch-and-shoot type of guy. In this play, you can see Embiid running a side dribble handoff play wherein from the corners, McCain uses the flare screen from Yabusele to get into the ball before utilizing the handoff from Embiid to momentarily free himself from his defender, giving him enough daylight to shoot the three-pointer. Then here, McCain initiates the offense right from half court, and you can see him using the high screen to get past the lengthy Isaac Okoro. Now he's about to get switched to 7-foot Jarrett Allen, but before that happens, and even before Okoro recovers, McCain knows he's already got space, and that's enough for him to launch the long three-pointer. But aside from his ability to consistently drain shots from deep, McCain is also a crafty shot maker off the bounce who's adept at attacking off angles, driving out of closeouts, creating off pick and rolls, and just being able to create his own shot off the dribble. Despite being just 6'3", one thing that I really love about McCain is that he loves to drive all the way to the basket. For his career so far, almost 20% of his field goals have come within 3 feet. He doesn't have the quickest first step for a guard, and he also doesn't have tremendous vertical pop. But even as a mostly below-the-rim finisher, McCain's just really crafty in terms of changing his pace, absorbing contact from defenders, and utilizing some quick twitch contortion when he gets deep into the paint, enabling him to score even against bigger players. In this play, you can see McCain in isolation being guarded by a good defender in Ron Holland. Watch him being initially stonewalled by Holland but still being able to play through the contact as he lowers his head to drive to the paint. Cunningham is ready to help at the basket, but McCain transfers the ball to his left hand and contorts his body for the acrobatic finish. This time, McCain's guarded by the bigger Jalen Suggs off the ball screen action. Suggs fights through the screen, but McCain uses one quick burst to start his attack. Even as Suggs stays in front of him, McCain uses that quick behind the back to create separation before he uses one last shot fake and one last extension to create the crafty shot right at the rim. As a rookie, McCain has converted an impressive 64.2% of all his field goal attempts within 3 feet of the basket, which ranked in the 88th percentile among all guards. And while his rim percentage has dropped down to just 54.8% this season, it's obviously because of him still not getting his full explosiveness back coming fresh off his offseason injuries. Still, when at his best, similar to what AJ Mitchell does, McCain should be able to consistently generate paint touches for the Thunder while providing some added secondary shot making off the bench, especially at times when the team experiences some dry stretches. Plus, McCain's ability to constantly get deep into the paint should also open up looks for the Thunder's plethora of cutters and floor spacers. Well, while the 76ers system hasn't really enabled McCain to straight up play as a distributor and as a primary playmaker, he's still shown solid decision making with the ball in his hands. I wouldn't call him an elite passer, but McCain is a constant ball mover who quickly identifies open teammates, whether when he's doing it off entry passes or out of kick-out dimes. Overall, McCain's ability to both move off the ball and create for himself should make the league's 4th best offense much more dynamic. Crazy thing is, when looking at it, this is also a rare situation for McCain in which getting traded to the NBA's best team might even afford a young player like him more touches than he's previously had with his old team. Given that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be out until after the All-Star break with an abdominal strain, there's a huge chance that McCain will immediately get to play much more of an on-ball role in OKC early on. But more than that, the true value of this deal for the Thunder, I think, also comes with the fact that McCain is still currently on his rookie contract. He's earning just $4.2 million this season, and has got non-guaranteed team options for the next 2 years, only worth a combined $11.1 million. With more than $800 million tied to SGA, J-Dub, and Chet Holmgren until the year 2030, finding cost-controlled players is going to be key to OKC's long-term success, and a player of McCain's upside, even if he does not contribute right away, simply fits into the team's financial timeline. Well, this trade alone was already a genius move by Sam Presti, but then I think there's a possibility that we might remember this 2026 trade deadline as something that also solidified the Thunder's chances of landing 2 lottery picks in this year's draft. First off, the James Harden trade that sent him to the Cavs could be meaningful for OKC, as the Thunder owns the Clippers' unprotected 2026 first-round pick. Right now, the Clippers own the 9th seed in the Western Conference after recovering from a disappointing 6-21 start to the season. But then they just traded their second-best player for Darius Garland, who's been hurt a huge amount of time this season and even when healthy hasn't been as good as James Harden. While the Clippers still seem likely to make the play-in tournament with Kawhi Leonard at the helm, losing Harden certainly decreases their chances of making the playoffs, which would then make them a lottery team. Well, sure, even then, the odds would be slim that the Clippers would end up with a top 4 pick, but we've seen strange things happening in the draft lottery, such as the Mavs moving up from the 11th best odds to straight up winning the draft lottery to land Cooper Flagg. This makes the possibility of OKC landing a top 4 talent in this year's draft even more glaring. Speaking of which, the Utah Jazz seem to be tired of trying their luck in the lottery because they just sent 3 first-round picks and more to Memphis to acquire Jaren Jackson Jr., which move could also have strong implications for the Thunder, as OKC will receive Utah's pick in this year's draft if it falls outside of the top 8. Well, the Jazz currently hold the 6th worst record in the entire NBA, but it's possible that with them pairing Jackson Jr. with Markkanen in the frontcourt together with the emergence of Keontae George, Utah could win more games towards the end of the season. Looking at it, Dallas is only 3.5 games ahead of Utah, while Memphis and Milwaukee are only 4.5 games ahead. With the Mavs finally trading Anthony Davis and with Memphis tearing down their roster, there's a real chance that the Utah Jazz moves ahead of them in the team standings, which then increases the chances of OKC profiting come draft night. But then, come to think of it, the noise quieted down a bit after the Thunder won the championship, but for years before that, people speculated that the team would likely spend the massive draft capital that accumulated in the potential blockbuster trade for a star. But by not doing that, the Thunder have kept their options open, so they could capitalize on opportunities like the ones they're having this year, which they themselves couldn't have seen coming. When Jared McCain was lighting it up as a rookie last year, it seemed unthinkable that Philly would be interested in trading him just the following season. The situation changed though, and that has given OKC a chance to add precisely the type of firepower it could use moving forward as they try to build an NBA dynasty. Ultimately, the Jared McCain trade was a buy low proposition for OKC. They still have 2 better picks remaining in the 2026 draft, and they've immediately upgraded their rotation with a 21-year-old who has 2 years left on his rookie contract after this season. McCain needs to get back to 100% physically, and it's tough to say if he'll be able to do that this year. But for the small price it took to get him, this is a fine gamble to take for the Thunder. This trade, together with OKC's draft odds suddenly looking better after the James Harden and Jaren Jackson deals, just shows how Sam Presti's patience continues to pay off for this Thunder franchise. Thank you guys if you've actually made it this far into the video, but what grade would you give the Thunder for this year's trade deadline? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this has been Real Balls, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.